Hello, and welcome to Tech to Tech presented by KYZEN, where we will explore common cleaning questions and answers. Let's get started. I would like to introduce KYZEN's own Phil Tomasello.
Thanks for the introduction, William, and thanks to all joining in today for another installment of Tech to Tech. Glad you could join me. Today we're going to be talking about descaling of an aqueous parts washer and the importance of doing so. This really relates to metal finishing applications that you'll be working in. If you look at the definition of descaling, it essentially is the process of removing a layer or incrustation or coating from a surface. And scale is typically made up of contaminants of deposits of minerals, of iron, of calcium, of magnesium, other things that occur in tap water or what we would call hard water. In this presentation, we'll talk about residue. And for this discussion today, residue is really defined as a buildup of soils, of metal fines, other substances in your wash process that also are going to adhere to your machine. There's great examples here, great photos. Scale buildup. Go to an old faucet that you have. Everyone's got one in their house somewhere, and you're going to see that mineral buildup. You'll see that scale. Same thing as with coffee pots. Every coffee pot needs to be scaled over time. Why? It doesn't work as well. It's not flowing as fast. Scale is lining the inside of that coffee pot and making it tough to get good coffee out. It's working slowly and efficiently. We all see this, right? Same thing with the aqueous parts washers. Descaling is very important, has a significant relationship to bath life. A healthy bath, right? Taking a look at wash and rinse tanks, the key to achieving consistent cleaning results is to make sure that bath is healthy, right? Poor maintenance of that bath is a huge factor, most common factor in poor cleaning outcomes. Second to that only is poor machine maintenance. So aside from not maintaining a bath to get your cleaning outcomes, not maintaining your machine is really a close second to leading to poor cleanliness outcomes for your parts. Bath life, bath quality are influenced by a lot of things. Non-volatile residue, right? What's that soil load in your bath? The type of water that you're using. Is it hard water? Is it RO water? The soils, right? The types of soils that are remaining in that bath, and certainly the amount of chips or fines, metal chips and fines that are in that bath itself. Heavy scale has a significant impact on parts washers. Heavy scale and residue are going to build up in rinse tanks, wash tanks. They're going to clog nozzles. They're going to be on other vertical and horizontal surfaces in these parts washers. And they're going to redistribute all the contaminants in that washer onto those parts. So your parts are going to get less clean over time. Scale and residue clog nozzles significantly. They bog down filters and hoses. They reduce pressure flow. It's a very common thing for us to see nozzles that are either conical fan spray and they're only dripping. And you can find this by looking into your machine, either open up the hood or get a flashlight in there. Take a look, and it's very easy to see that, right? Pumps can be burdened over time. If filters are getting clogged, it's really putting a lot of extra work on the pumps, can lead to pump failure. Again, take a look at that, but heavy scale has a big impact on that. If you regularly schedule descaling and maintenance of your machine, you can set yourself up for reliable, long-term, and consistent cleaning outcomes. I provided some examples here in photo of heavy scale and residue buildup from a lot of customer site visits that we do. This is a relatively new cabinet spray washer. You can see the scale and the residue buildup on the door. On this track washer, if you look at that rail, it's really thick. It is really thick scale and residue buildup. Track washer here again, that's the bottom of a track washer. Look at that tank, and you can find a lot of residue, a lot of scale on the bottom of it. That was pretty thick. In this photo, you're going to see, I circled here, on the vertical surfaces, a lot of scale that needs to come off. And that nozzle that you see there certainly had some problems. My belief is that they probably had changed that, but certainly attempted to clean it out first. Very common to see if you open up the hood of your aqueous washers. This is an extreme example of heavy scale and residue buildup in an indexing washer. Certainly circled in red here, you can see a lot of that scale, a lot of that residue. Again, that's coming from hard water, the minerals, to some extent. The type of chemistry you're using can add to that. The soils that you're cleaning off, a lot of things are going into that. But if you're using your machines at high volume and high frequency, this is going to happen very quickly. The other photo here on the right side in green will show you what that washer looks like without that scale and residue on it. So it can take a lot of time. It can take very little time depending upon what you're cleaning off, the type of water, all the other variables we've noted. Perfect example here. If you take a lid off of an exposed tank in an aqueous washer, you can find lots of fines, metal chips that are sitting here in these soils, right? The residues and oils that are there. So keep in mind, do you have an oil skimmer running? Do you have a coalescer running? In many cases, that may not be running. That's going to add to that problem. Great photo here. Taking a look at an aqueous washer running through some dunnage parts where no descaling has been done in nearly a year's time. Again, as we'd mentioned, but very easy to see here in this picture, you are redistributing all the soils from your machine onto your parts. So moving through all the things that potentially can happen and how they happen from scale and residue buildup, really, let's talk about best practices, things that you need to focus on to successfully descale your machine and get that aqueous parts washer to run in an efficient way to get the results you're looking for. First, you want to drain all your tanks. You want to remove all the chemistry, all the water, following your EH&S established practices. After you've done that, you want to run hot water only through this washer to remove chips, fines, any other residue you can possibly get out. At that point, you want to descale your machine using a safe citric acid chemistry at about 20 to 25% concentration. And we'd like to say at 150 to 160 degrees Fahrenheit in that sacrificial bath. So you're only running the machine. You're not putting any parts through it. You want to run that for several hours, 3, 4, 5, 6 hours. Then you want to purge all that chemistry from your machine. Again, based upon your best practices, EH&S practices, and your process you have established. At that point, you can manually start cleaning out your machine. Tank bottoms you will find are going to be filthy, as we've shown. Walls, tracks, horizontal, vertical surfaces, nozzles. So you're going to have scrubber pads, you're going to have sponges, you're going to have brushes. And it's really best to talk to your manufacturer for their best practices, their recommended clean out tools or processes. Next, you want to perform several sacrificial baths, and they should be run with water only. And that's going to ensure that you get all the citric acid chemistry out of your machine and out of your hoses, your filters. Make sure you purge that. So several sacrificial baths should be run. And at that point, you want to check your hoses. You want to check your filters and make sure that they're free of blockage from chips and fines. You're going to find a lot of blockage in your hoses. So important to really take a look at those. And at that point is really the best point to replace that filter. You'll be amazed with the amount of things you find in that filter after descaling. Next step we recommend is talk to your machine manufacturer and see either if they can help you service your machine or make any recommendation for replacement of pumps if you need them, or spray nozzles or hoses or other machine parts. Here are a few examples. Some spray nozzles that are very common out there on the market. And there's your filter housing. Next, I would urge that every company really looks to establish a a more frequent bath change out, help you avoid the real heavy soil load in your tanks, significantly limit the amount of redistribution of particulates, of contaminants. That's going to help you also reduce the amount of, let's say, heavy lifting or elbow grease you're going to need in future descaling. If you descale your machine more frequently, the level to which you need to descale next time will decrease by default. A lot of companies are set up to descale their machines quarterly. Some do it more frequently, some do it less frequently. Again, it really depends. What are you running? What parts? What soils are going in there? What's the frequency that you're running this machine? How many cycles? Again, types of soils. Are you running hard water? Are you running RO water? And what are those cleanliness outcomes that you're looking for? All that goes into it, but a lot of companies are setting up for quarterly, if not sooner. Then I really think it's important to look at considering the use of reverse osmosis water. And there are RO systems out there, large systems, small systems that you can look at. But these systems are great because they're by design are physically removing those minerals that we mentioned, going through by forcing water through a semi-permeable membrane, right? And you've got water molecules that can go through the membrane. You've got all those other minerals that cannot. So you end up with clean water to start. If you start with a real clean process at the beginning, you could finish with a pretty clean process. So something that we recommend you at least look at and talk to the companies that are providing RO systems to see what might be a viable option for you. I put in a bonus slide here just as a reminder for process management of bath life. Is managing a bath and managing a machine from cleanliness standpoint are really go hand in hand. From day one, take a look at cycle times, make notes of the process parameters you have: time, energy, solvency, temperature, filter health. Make sure your oil skimmer or your coalescer is working. Identify how long it's running. Do you run it overnight? Take a look at soil types that you're running and the variations of soils that are coming into your machine. And this all will help you build a really good view from day one, let's say through day 30, as to what those parameters are and what needs to change. Because as you go through that data and that document, you're going to see, okay, at day 29 or day 25, my cleanliness outcomes started dropping off. That's a great indicator, right? And that's where you want to start and paying attention to those variables. Take a look at those data points. Benefits, again, of regularly scheduled descaling. You're going to be able to ensure that your parts washer is not recontaminating your substrates, right? You're going to reduce the failures that come with clogged pumps, clogged nozzles, hoses, filters. Regularly descaling your machine is going to provide more consistency for overall cleanliness outcomes that you have. It's going to minimize the amount of downtime that you have, lower your failure rate, and in general will increase the longevity and efficiency of your parts washer, right? Let's get to a couple frequently asked questions. These are the most common. First one, how can I tell when my aqueous parts washer should be descaled? Well, you're going to start seeing redistribution of your soils on your substrates. That's one. The best way to tell is to open up your tanks. Wash tank, rinse tank, look inside, get a flashlight. If you can see heavy scale hanging down from the top of your tank from the inside on the vertical and horizontal surfaces, absolutely. That's the easiest way to tell, in addition to poor cleanliness outcomes. Take a look at that first. You should be very clear from looking in there whether you need to do something or not with that machine. Next question, how often should I descale my machine? Again, how often are you using it? What are the soils you're cleaning off? Are you using a chemistry that might be contributing to the residue gathering on there with the scale? Are you using hard water or RO water. That all will all go into really determining when you should descale your machine. Ideally, you should set up on a schedule to descale it before you start having parts failures. So depending on many of those variables, very subjective to each manufacturer, take a look at that. Some are doing it quarterly, some more frequently, some less frequently, but it's good to start gathering data and find out when you can do it to avoid getting the parts where you have those failures. Well, descaling my machine extend bath life. Yes, it has a good correlation. If you have a cleaned out machine, if the machine is free of scale and residues, and you put a clean bath in there with great new concentration, and you are running that, yes, you're going to get great efficacy, much better than if you put clean, brand new, fresh chemistry into an unscaled, dirty machine that may have residue within it, may have nozzles that aren't working. So yes, absolutely will impact and extend bath life by descaling that machine. Final question is, how long will it take to properly descale my machine? That really depends upon the size and complexity of your machine, how much time you have, and how many people you have to help. For example, let's say a 16 to 25 foot track washer that I've seen companies that have been able to successfully descale it within a day, an entire day. They've got 4 or 5 people helping with that. They're purging the machines. They have other people taking off hoses, changing filters, looking through that, working through that process. Smaller machines, likely less time. The time it takes also depends on how frequently you descale it. We've seen machines that haven't been cleaned within over a year, within 2 years. And it takes forever because there's so much to do. Certainly, if you have descaled your machine on a frequent basis, it's going to take less time. Hopefully this helps, and hopefully you found this discussion today to be of benefit to your specific aqueous parts washer and your processes. As always, you know where to contact the KYZEN team. Please feel to reach out. Thank you very much. I'll now turn it over to William.
Thanks, Bill. Thank you all for watching this Tech to Tech session. If you would like to discuss this topic further or have any questions not answered in the session, please contact your local KYZEN regional manager or send an email to tech@kyzen.com, and we will have someone follow up with you as soon as possible. And if you like this video, be sure to follow us on our social media platforms for more expert cleaning content.